Good morning. Welcome to the Ventura Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Bonnie Rose. I seem to be missing a board president. If anybody, oh, here she is. Hello. Hi. Anyway, it's great to see you guys here today. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you're joining us online today, thank you for joining us there too. I hope you're super comfortable and having a nice warm beverage in your pajamas, kind of like me. Okay. All righty. So I'm going to pass it over to Lonnie.
Good morning, Bonnie.
Good morning, Lonnie.
Oh, good, my mic works.
Okay.
I was just having so much fun seeing everyone and just getting some really good hugs and just the love that our center has. And whether you're here in the sanctuary or you're at home, being all nice and comfy, we love you, we bless you, and we're so happy that you've joined us.
Thanks, Lonnie. Are we done? Okay. All righty. Now is usually our time for our youth message, but Bill is somewhere. I don't know where he is. He's camping. He's camping with the Scouts? Okay, good to know. Okay, so we're going to do our youth blessing. So if you feel young at heart, or if you're a young person, just go ahead and put your hands over your heart and take this in. Oh, good. Everybody's hands are over their hearts. Yay. All righty. So please repeat after me. We love you. We bless you. We believe in you. You are the face of God. And so it is. Let's turn it over to Kim, our practitioner. Thank you.
So I invite you to close your eyes and to turn within. And in this moment, the good news is that God is right where you are. For the breath of life is the breath of God. And in this knowing, simply allow the beauty, the power, and the presence of life energy itself to make it known to our consciousness once again and again and again. And knowing in this moment that every thought, deed, and action is blessed by insight and understanding, by wisdom, compassion, and love. And in this moment, knowing that each of us is offered to be another day to be of service, to reach out, to hold the light, to be the best version of ourselves, so that we may play our part in the birthing and the unfolding of the greater yet to be. And in celebration of this knowing, and in celebration of every father in this house, we simply raise our voice in unison and say, and so it is.
So beautifully. Knowing that breath is life, and life is love, and love is God, and that we are immersed in all of it. And so we let go of the day that came before us, of the week that came before us, of any cares that we might have. We just set them aside for a moment as we relax into the sacred center, into the sacred beingness of the heart of heaven right here on earth. And we listen to the words of our sacred reading.
An anonymous tribute to Father's Day. Today is for the fathers. It is for the grandfathers, uncles, brothers, and sons. For the most important man in anyone's life, the one who gave us life. Here's to you, the dads who play endless games of go fish with their kids and always let them win. And those who always played to win every time, thinking that their children would grow stronger through defeat. This is for the fathers who worked in the fields and factories, taught in the classrooms, or sat in office cubicles 8 long hours a day. Here's to those who performed life-saving surgery and those who drove their truck through long days and nights. Here's to those who loved every minute of their labor and to those who only worked so their families could survive. To the sleepless dads who have waited in silent fear that their babies wouldn't make it through the night or that their teenagers would survive their first time driving alone. Those who lost children and those who found them in different ways. Here's to tears not shed and hugs not given for fear of appearing weak. Here's to dads who build with hammer and saw and those who wouldn't know how. The father who is afraid of spiders and yet can slay the great dragon of fear in his little ones. The fathers who tried and those who didn't. The fathers who gave us life and walked away, and those who stayed long past their life of their marriage to give something to their children. Here's to the fathers who loved their children's mother, and to those who no longer could. The fathers who hurt because their children have been kept from them, and to those who are both father and mother. Stay-at-home dads and stay-away dads, the one we wanted but never knew. The helpless, hurting father and the brave, strong one. To all the ways of fatherhood, here's to you today.
And so we breathe into the spaciousness. We breathe into that place. This day where we honor fathers. This weekend where we honor liberation, Juneteenth, freedom. We open our hearts to all that is on this beautiful mosaic that we call existence. And we know that in this mosaic, there's only one. There's the oneness that shows up in all things, in the darkness, in the light, in the joy, and the sorrow. In all of it, there is this powerful, present, large and small oneness that is both the drop in the ocean and the ocean in the drop. And how can we have words for that? How can we possibly express what that is with our thinking brains? We draw it down, the energy of it, down into our hearts and into our bodies. And perhaps we become so full that we need to sing about it, that we need to express the I am presence, the oneness with song. And so together in just a moment, we will sing, I am remembering who I am. And knowing that as we do so, we remember that our life is the very life of the air, the breath of the God. All of those are the same thing. And so we use our breath to create song. That a song that is sung is a prayer spoken twice because we hear it, we sing it. And actually it's 3 times because we feel the vibrations in our bodies. And actually it's 4 times because we feel the vibration in the community. So when we sing this song, we know the I am presence for ourselves, but we also know it for the whole world because the sound of this song, the intention of this song ripples out beyond the walls of this sacred center and blesses everyone. And so together, with all of that, in heart, mind, and being, we remember. We sing, I am remembering who I am. In the sacred stillness, we remember. We breathe into the remembrance, allowing it to fill our heart, our soul, our being, our body. And then we see it in the whole world as we breathe in deeply. And then exhale, opening our eyes in love and in service to what is, as it is. And so it is. Namaste. For my next number, all right, let's see if this little stinker is going to work. Can I have the first slide, please? Thank you. Yay, okay. Let's have Reverend Karen Mondragon come on up here and have a seat. And let's give her some love as she comes up here. Yeah. Yeah. Aw. Oh, there you are. Oh, that's a good thing, yeah. Yeah, did you learn that in ministerial school, honey?
No, I learned it walking.
Oh, okay, good to know. You okay, babe? Can I help you? Yeah, it's a kind of a tightrope here, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay. My daughter told me once, she says, Mom, you do more face plants than anybody I know.
Well, let's give her some love because she didn't do a face plant. All right. Okay. Oh, well, Karen and I have a lot to say, so we're going to jump right in, but I'm going to start by giving just a tiny introduction about Karen. First of all, Karen is just a force of nature in her own right. She's a wonderful person. Karen has been here since I started 18 long years ago. And she was so kind to me and so nice. And you were on the search committee, right?
Mm-hmm.
And part of them. Yeah, and part of the reason you hired me was because I had a dog.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right. Okay. So there's that. And you know, Karen has been such an inspiration to all of us, really. She one of the most steadfast roles that she's played in this church is that she designs the ministry of prayer missive that goes out every week. And so, like, if you, I hear the Mission Impossible theme. That's awesome. So she designs the Ministry of Prayer list that goes out every single week, and people who submit prayer requests get prayed for by all of the practitioners, and it's such a beautiful service, and she does a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you. Take it in, baby. You're going to get lots of praise today, so just gotta deal with it. Yay. Okay. So one of the things also that we love about Karen is that she was married to her late husband Fred, who was such just a stalwart practitioner here in the Ventura Center for Spiritual Living. Fred was just a presence, a presence. He was also, again, he was in charge of me in my audition Sunday, and he took such good care of me. And then for years later, he always told me, I'm going to pray for your gumption. I'm going to pray for your gumption, because it was really hard. And I think part of the reason I stuck was because Fred was praying for my gumption. So let me see if I can make this thing work. Oh, there it is. Okay. So this is a picture of Fred. I hope you can all see it. Fred is practitioner emeritus. Yeah, it's a beautiful picture of him. If you're ever missing Fred, I don't know if he's up there today, but we have a picture of Rumi the poet, and a lot of people think that our picture of Rumi looks like Fred, so just check that out. This is Fred in his professional shot, but this is more of Fred in his real personality. It's a picture of him and your grandchildren? Sticking out his tongue?
Yeah.
Yeah, all sticking out their tongues. So, and then we've got this one. Fred was a fixture in our Christmas Eve program, and for those of you who regularly attend here, you may know that we have a live animal parade at the end of Christmas Eve, usually involving farm animals, a horse, a goat, a pig, a donkey, a bunch of chickens and whatnot, bunnies, large bunnies. And we did have one Dalmatian that used to come, and that's Buddy, Karen and Fred's Dalmatian. Buddy started out as playing the role of the cow when we used to do the nativity, because he had spots like a cow. But then he moved up in the world and he got to play a Dalmatian. So the other thing is that I think he ate his udder, like he had an udder on his costume, and I think he chewed it up, right?
He didn't like it.
He didn't like his udder.
Yeah.
Who does, is what I always say. But anyway, so anyway, that's Fred and Buddy playing Santa and Santa's Dalmatian. And another tradition about Fred, and one of the reasons that we're speaking about him today, is that every Sunday Fred would come to church. Every Father's Day, Fred would come to church and tell us a Father's Day story. So I'm going to ask Karen to tell us that story in honor of Fred. Okay?
Good.
Okay. And that's, just so you know, that's a picture of Fred's father and Peggy Lee. Okay?
Yes.
All right.
Fred loved to tell this story because it's an example of surrender, big time. He was in Prac 2. We weren't even licensed yet.
Right.
But back then,
And Prac 2 means they were studying to be spiritual counselors.
They called us PITs, practitioners in training.
Right.
So he was called on New Year's Eve by the practitioner leader and asked him if he would mind going to CMH to do a prayer with a patient there. And he was kind of nervous about it, but he said yes, he would do it. And of course, they gave him a history of this patient. This patient was a retired doctor. He was a very grumpy old guy, and he did go to Religious Science Center, I believe in Thousand Oaks or Westlake or whatever, but he said he would see somebody. So Fred went, and when he went to the hospital, he walked in the room, and the guy was sound asleep. Sound asleep. So Fred goes, and he sat there for a few minutes, probably a few seconds, and he said, okay, I did my duty.
Yeah.
And so he left, and he came home, and I said, boy, that was fast. He goes, well, the guy was asleep, so I went, I tried. So I said, Fred, you really need to go back. He goes, I knew you would say that. So maybe an hour later, he says, okay, I'm going to go back. And so he went back, and when he came home, he told me, he said, I walked in the man's room, and he was playing, I don't even know what you call them anymore, those little recorder things.
Like a cassette player?
Yeah,
okay.
that thing. And the man was a jazz enthusiast, and Fred's father was a very well-known bass player, jazz musician back in the day. And by this time, his father had been had passed away for a few years. But the man had this jazz song on, and Fred walked in the room, and it was a song that his father had played in, and he recognized it. And so that's all Fred said to the man was, that my father played bass in that song. And he goes, your father played bass? He goes, Joe Mondragon? And he goes, yeah, that was my dad. And he goes, you're Joe Mondragon's son. Oh my God, and the guy just lit up, and he was so excited. He says, I gotta call my daughter. So he called his daughter, because you wouldn't guess who's in the room with me. It's Joe Mondragon's son in person, and he's here. And so the guy said, oh, I'm so happy. He said, you know, you made my day, you made my night. I'm so happy. He said, you can go home now. So Fred said, okay, Happy New Year. And so, I mean, when he came home, he goes, you know, I was so nervous, and I was so wondering what I was going to say. And all the way I was saying, God, if you had anything to say it now, because I don't know what to say. And he was kind of nervous about the guy. You know, he wasn't an experienced practitioner yet. But it was like when you surrender, and Bonnie talks a lot about surrender in her class that she's doing, but when you surrender and just let go and give it over to God, it works out. And who would have known that the man would be playing his dad's music, and Fred recognized it, and so that, you know, that was the prayer.
So the moral of that story is, when you don't know what to say, you say, my father is Joe Mondragon. No, you surrender. You surrender. And the other ripple I wanted to share with all of you too is that, you know, we've all heard Joe Mondragon, because Joe Mondragon played on Peggy Lee's Fever. Remember that? You know that song? Boom, boom, boom. Never know how much you love me. Right? That one. And he also played on this one that I know we've all heard. Remember the bass part in Jaws? That was Joe Mondragon.
Yeah.
So we're all connected through to Fred, through his father, through Joe's bass. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Yep, that's a miracle.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was his story.
Yeah, that was his story, and you know, it was part of the blessings of Fred. Fred was also an artist, and that's Fred offering a flower in one of his paintings as well, right?
When he offered that flower, he loved cruises, so we would take these 4-day cruises and go to Catalina.
Yeah.
And when he was still able to walk, we would walk to the casino thing, and he would pick a flower. There was a little bridge thing, and he would always pick a flower and hand it to me.
Aww,
and that's one
so
picture.
Sweet.
He's handing me the flower.
That's so sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, those are some beautiful memories of Fred. But Karen, I want to talk a little bit about what you've been up to as well. Karen, during COVID, during Fred's illness, I believe you wrote a book, right?
Yeah.
You wrote a children's book. So tell us about your children's book.
And it was published before he died, so he got to see it.
Good.
It's called The Happy Blanket, and I had written it for my great-granddaughter, Brielle. And if she's watching this, she'll get upset because I'm talking about her. But she used to have tantrums when she's 10 now, and she was really little. She would have these horrible, horrible tantrums and just be out of control. Nobody knew what to do to help her, because we felt bad for her, you know. So I wrote this book based on for her to give to her. And when I gave it to her, it wasn't in a book form. It was just stapled together, and I gave her a little blanket. And so, of course, she criticized it. We don't have dogs with that name, and we don't have a cat because my mom is allergic. But anyway, so I wrote it for her, and the message of the blanket is love.
So when you're having a tantrum, you can what?
You can grab your happy blanket, and the happy blanket is a metaphor for anything. You know, it could be a hug, it could be your animal, it could be your heart. You're just feeling your heart, just knowing, you know, and that love is there no matter what. If you have a tantrum, like her in the book, her grandma says to her, you know, she says, doesn't matter if you're kicking or screaming or yelling or crying, the blanket is there for you, no matter what. So love holds us, and love embraces us no matter what's going on. You know, at the best of times or the worst of times, it's there. It's there for us.
So that's the metaphor of the book, is that love is always there for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Now, I'm wondering, what was your, is there another intention in writing the book? I know you wrote it for your granddaughter, but was there a broader intention as well?
Part of my ministry is through writing. And I'm writing my second book right now. It's almost finished. And there's it's about Christmas trees. And their purpose in life, they don't know what it is yet, but is to help a family that adopts them, that brings them in. And each Christmas tree has their own character, and the house they go to, the people in that house have their own special way of doing things. And so each tree not only teaches a lesson to the family, but learns a lesson also. You know,
Yeah,
so that's
beautiful.
That's what that book, and the whole thing is through my writing, I want to be able to. Right now, I'm aiming it at children, but it's to help people know the spiritual lessons of truth. You know, love and forgiveness and diversity and everything like that.
Yeah.
So to do it for children, to start off with children in a way that is easy for them to understand and relate to.
Yeah. You know, one thing that I love about your book, the children's book, this one that you read, The Happy Blanket, that you wrote rather, and the one that you're talking about writing, is how you animate things that most normal people, and I don't count myself in that category, would think are inanimate, right? And don't we know that spirit animates everything? That spirit is a blessing that infuses all of nature, all of creation, that we become separate from creation and all of nature through just through ignorance of our oneness with it. And even things like blankets, which are made out of nature, partially sometimes, and things like Christmas trees, which are definitely nature, that everything has something to offer us. Everything has something to teach us. So I love the animation of what you share to choose, how it brings greater depth to all of the things around us that we might be taking for granted. Oh, I'm going to say it again. Every time I interview somebody, I say the kingdom of heaven is spread upon the earth, but we do not see it, right? The kingdom of heaven, meaning the oneness consciousness with God, the unitive consciousness with everything, is spread upon the earth, but we don't see it. And Karen, through her message, changes that verse from the Gospel of Thomas just a little bit by saying, hey, the kingdom of heaven is spread upon the earth, and you get to see it here in this happy blanket, or you get to see it here in this Christmas tree. Aren't you cool? Aren't you just the coolest?
I guess I am.
Yeah, you are. You're getting lots of applause, girl. Okay, let's give her some more. Yeah. This kind of reminds me of the Jerry Springer show, don't they?
Well, I was going to wonder, is Jimmy Kimmel coming out soon?
Yeah, soon. Yeah, but if it's Jerry Springer, you better get ready to throw something, because they do a lot of that on Jerry. Yeah. So Karen animates everything through her writing, as we can do through our consciousness, through our perception. But how is that possible during really hard times? Like, Karen, I know that the last couple of years have been a struggle for you. I'm going to switch again to a picture of beloved Fred and beloved Karen. They had a real love story. They really loved each other, and they did all kinds of things together. They were practitioners together. Fred brought Karen to this church. You might want to tell that story. I don't know if it's mine to tell, but Fred brought Karen to this church, and they also had many dogs together. We saw a picture of Buddy, and we saw a picture of Sophie. So tell us how you came to the church, and then tell us about your love story and what the last couple of years have been like.
Well, I came to this church because Fred was a follower of Dr. Tom Costa, who was a minister down in the Palm Springs area, and he would play these tapes for me, and I was a Pentecostal. I was steeped in the Pentecostal philosophy.
Quick question, did you speak in tongues?
I did at one service, yes.
Could you do it now? No, I'm kidding.
No.
You don't have to, okay. All right, sorry. Okay.
So I was trying to change him, and he was trying to change me.
Oh, that works really well in marriage, doesn't
yeah.
it? Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
So my son was going to get married, and he also went to the same church I did, and the minister wouldn't marry him because his wife wouldn't accept Jesus as her savior. So they went through the phone book and called different churches. They called this one, and the minister answered the phone and said that she would marry them. So that's how my husband got me here, because he says, we have to go see, he's always wanted to come in here because of the architecture. He says, we have to go in there we have to hear a service because the minister's marrying our son, so aren't you interested? I said, the devil's in there, I'm not going in. So I was so torn. He did talk me into coming one Sunday, and I prayed all night. I armored myself because I knew it was a trick. The devil was standing right behind the doors, and as soon as I walked in, he would grab me and have me. So that was it. And so I walked in all scared and shaking, and I listened to the service, and I'd never heard a service like that. I wasn't going to burn in hell, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we came back every single Sunday after that one day, and I didn't leave the devil out of my life immediately, but we started taking classes, and through a progression of going to classes, coming to church, I realized that God was more powerful than any devil. If there was one, God was more powerful than it.
Yeah.
And so that's how I started thinking about God and leaving the devil. Get behind me, devil. So, so and then I became a practitioner, and now I'm a minister, and
You're writing books, and it's awesome. It's just awesome. Tell us a little bit about the challenges of the last year.
Oh, gosh. My husband was a firefighter for 30 years, and he was very active. He was a training officer in his role as a captain, and he was very proud of that. It was something he treasured and was very, very proud of. So he was also in high school a record breaker for sprinting. He was a runner, and he broke records at Van Nuys High School, set records that have never been broken because they separated the high schools. So his records will stand forever. But through the years, his legs started to hurt, and he started to go downhill physically, had a heart attack and all kinds of things like that. So the past couple of years, it got worse and worse and worse, and he got to the point where he could hardly walk at all. It hurt him so badly, and so there were trips to USC down in LA, taking him to specialists, doing all kinds of things, and then he was in ICU, and they sent him to a rehab center to try and get him, and they couldn't do anything. So the doctor called me and said, we have to think about hospice. So they released him, and he didn't want to be there at all. He called me up, and he'd say, I'm gonna call an Uber if you don't get me out of here. I'd say, Fred, Uber's not gonna come take you out of there. Yes, they are. So anyway, he came home, and we set up his hospice bed in the living room. And the TV, my son mounted it up on the wall so he could see it better. And it was rough because this man that was so strong in my life, was fading away. But every single day, from before we were married, every single day he asked me if I would marry him. He'd say, will you marry me? And I'd say yes. And then he'd say, right now, today? And I'd say, yeah. And sometimes he'd ask me when I was really aggravated with him, and I'd say, you're asking me that now? He says, well, you have to be honest. So I always said yes, because I'd say, no matter how angry I am at him, would I want my life without him? No, I wouldn't. So then he'd say, he had this whole little ritual, and then he'd say, do you love me? And I'd say, yes. Well, why do you love me? And then if I tried to get out of that with like one sentence, he'd say, I don't want to hear more. Tell more. So, but even on his hospice bed, I always sat in this one chair on the side, and he would look over and he'd say, will you marry me? And this one day, I wasn't sitting there. His daughter sat there, and he said, will you marry me? To his daughter, and then he goes, oh, wrong one. It was like,
Well, good for him.
but this right here, I have to tell you that going through our practitioner core in this center is so strong and so beautiful and so connected that when Fred was in the process of dying, they made this practitioner bouquet, and they delivered it to the house, and I set it on the credenza across from his hospital bed so he could see it. And it's all these are pictures of our practitioners, and they cut out little pictures of themselves and put them on these flowers, and then they wrote these things. And I'll put this in the social hall later if you guys want to look at it. But it made him so happy.
I'll
He
bet.
just loved it. And sometimes he'd say, "Bring me my bouquet so I can look at it." And he'd look at everybody, and every single person on here is special. Every single person on here was so special in both our lives.
Do you think that was a, excuse me, do you think that was a happy blanket for Fred?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I'll bet.
Yes.
And we have our Circle of Blessings team to thank for that, our beautiful Christine Both, and I know other volunteers served with her to make that happen. So
And the Circle of
it's so beautiful.
Blessings, they would bring food, and
Yeah.
they it was during COVID, so people couldn't really come in the house.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it was so special to see
Yeah.
how caring people were. And I have to say, people would bring meals, and they would bring desserts, and this very beautiful, bubbly little doll of a practitioner, Jonna, her donation was wine. And somebody came to the door, and one of my practitioner friends who was there said, "You have to sign for this." And I said, "Sign for what?" So I went out, and it was the liquor store guy. And he had, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 bottles of wine. They were delicious wines, by
Yeah.
the way. And cheese. And I went, "Oh my gosh." And it was from her, the beautiful little Jonna. I
Yeah.
said, "Just, she doesn't." Everything was delicious. And that wine, I laughed so hard. I was like, "Oh my gosh, she knows what I need right now."
You needed Holy Communion, right? Holy Communion. Yeah. So, Karen, I don't know whether this is too much for you, and I didn't ask you about this before we spoke, but we're good friends, right? Mm-hmm. Would you mind telling that story about the last breath? Are you able to do that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A few days before he died, actually that week, for a few months before he was in his hospice bed, he was painting angels. And he couldn't stop painting angels. And I'd say, "Fred, you're painting all these angels." What? Because he always painted flowers, but he was painting, he says, "I can't stop. I keep seeing them, and I have to paint them. I don't know what it is." And so he has all these beautiful angels that he painted. And when he was on his deathbed there, I had them hanging up around him. And one of the angels he had painted was in the sky, and she was releasing a dove. And the dove was flying out of her hands like that. And so that day, the day that he died that early morning of the next day, but he couldn't breathe. And breath was very important to him because as a firefighter, he came down with this lung thing where he couldn't breathe very well because he was a firefighter in the 60s, and they didn't have all the stuff that they have now to protect them. And his breathing was very labored, and it was so painful to hear and to watch him lying there trying to get his breath. And even with the oxygen, he couldn't, and it was gurgly, and it was terrible. And he died at almost 1:30 in the morning. So right before he died, maybe the last 5 minutes or less, he went from trying to get his breath to absolute peaceful breath, just flowing in his body and out of his body, no struggle, nothing. It was so peaceful, and he looked peaceful. And he just left.
Then he left, yeah.
Yeah, but before he died, I could feel the angels. The whole house was filled with angels.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
And the reason I brought that up is because for some of us that are taking this class together, there's been such a striking image where this particular author of the book we're reading talks about how the breath is God. The breath is God. Our breath is God. It is closer than we know. God is closer than we know, and every inhalation and exhalation is God. And not only is it infusing our body, it's shared with everybody. We're all sharing the breath, and it's also shared with all of the planets, all of the atmosphere around the planets, and it ripples on the ocean. It's all God. And I was thinking when Karen told that story about Fred's passing, is that yes, we are one with God in our breath, and then as our last breath leaves, we actually become the breath. We become the energy and the air that circulates through everything. We resume our rightful place, not that this is our wrongful place, but we resume our true place in the universal experience of being the breath that infuses and informs and uplifts everything. And so I see that for Fred right now. I see that that's his truth, and that he is here among us. I have a feeling Fred is right here today. Remember when we went to get his ashes, we thought Fred was playing a joke on us, right?
We got lost.
We got lost. I called Annette, and I'm like, we can't find Fred's ashes. And she's like, what are you talking about? Like, we couldn't find the place where they were. And Karen and I both were saying, that's Fred. And both of our phones died, so we couldn't, click Google and find it. We're just driving aimlessly around, like, has anybody seen Fred's ashes? You know? That was Fred. That was Fred totally making a joke.
I'm sure it was, yes. I'm sure it was. And I've heard from different people, friends of ours, that said, your husband came to me.
Yeah.
And I don't even think it was a dream, but he came to me and he said this or he did that or I saw him here or there. And that's just like him too.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And he was, the last couple of days, he was in such gratitude. He told people, thank you for everything. If you tucked his blanket, thank you, thank you. And he was just like gratitude. He had to be in gratitude. And one time he said to me, thank you, but something about his bed. And I said, oh, I didn't do that. He said, I told you thank you. I said, you're welcome.
That's nice. That's nice. You know what that reminds me of too is like, why wait until your deathbed to be thankful for everything? You know, as many of you know, the play Our Town is one of my favorites, and it's always going in my head. And at the end, where this character comes back from life, she goes, "Oh, it goes so fast." Does anybody ever realize life while they know it? Does anybody know how beautiful this is while they live it? And the stage manager, who is God, says, "Well, maybe the saints and the poets, but not everybody, no." So this is a calling for all of us to recognize how beautiful life is while we live it. And to help us do that, I'm going to ask Karen, we're almost done, but name your 3 top happy blankets, your 3 top metaphorical happy blankets.
My memories of my husband.
Okay.
Prayer. My family.
Your family.
My biological family, my children, my grandchildren, they are all so wonderful and have been such a help to me. And my church family, I can't say enough about the practitioners, the congregants, the minister, everybody. Everybody here has been just so wonderful and so helpful to me. I don't know how I could have gotten through it without all of you.
Thank you.
And the other church, my mentor minister, Reverend Rosedale, her center in Charlotte, North Carolina, those people have helped me. Connection. My prayer partner, Ardelia, who we've been prayer partners for 7 years, and we laugh so much and talk about unicorns and magic carpets, and just my husband would be in the other room. He'd say, "Oh, you're talking to Ardelia, aren't you?"
Yeah.
So he said, "You're like teenagers, you two."
Yeah.
But everybody,
Yes.
I mean, the human connection, and I think through the pandemic, missing. There's something about humans that we have to touch each other. We have to hug. We have to hold hands. It's like in our DNA.
Yeah.
It just is,
Yeah.
and it's a beautiful thing. It's a healing thing, and it's something to cherish and treasure and hang on to. And my writing, and the people I've met through my writing, my editor, and all kinds of people in my life that have come into my life that I never ever thought would have been there for me.
Isn't life amazing?
It
even,
is.
Even with all of its joys and sorrows, life is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And you're such an example of that. And I'm so happy that we're part of your Happy Blanket team because
Oh,
we
you
love you
are.
so much. I want to say one more thing, because one of the things that we teach here is that positive actions ripple. And so Karen and Fred are both like walking positive actions, and this book that Karen wrote is a positive action. And so one of the things that we're doing is that Karen read the book to our youth program. She read it out loud, and they were all excited. One of them was, what was he saying? Something like, "You wrote a book? How did you write a book?" You know, so we see a future author there, perhaps. But she read it to our youth program, and then they're going to make their own happy blankets, but they're also going to make a happy quilt that they're going to donate to Step Up Ventura, which is an organization that helps children that are impacted by homelessness. They're going to donate it to Step Up Ventura for one of their fundraisers. And who knows where that blanket will go or who it will soothe, but that's the way God works. We put our goodness out into the world. We put our kindness out into the world. We put our happy blankets out into the world, whether it's prayer or community or love or writing somebody a letter or even a real live blanket. We put it out into the world. We never know where it's going to go. But with the intention of spreading goodness, it always spreads goodness. And so with that, I would love us to give Karen a huge round of applause and say thank you so much for sharing today.
Thank you.
You're the best.
Thank you.
You're absolutely the best. Thank you. And so we turn within right here and right now to center into the awareness of prayer, to center into the knowing that right here in this sacred space, we are weaving a blanket of love, a blanket of forgiveness, a blanket of kindness, that together we turn to the true nature of God, recognizing that God is all there is, that God is love, peace, power, understanding, that God is grace, God is joy. And not only that God is that which holds all opposites. It is the darkness and the light. It is the joy and the sorrow. It is that which surrounds everything, all of the opposites. And so we anchor into that space that is beyond opposites and know it as our life. Know it as the truth of our existence. Knowing that it is as close as our breath, knowing that it is our breath. That our breath is who we are, and the miracle of breath continues to bless and sustain us invisibly, just as God does. But today, here in this sacred community, as we have unified with this presence, we realize the nature of God in the world around us. We make the word flesh. We make spirit matter. We recognize and realize the power and the presence of the living God in all of the things that we have, in our families, in our beating hearts, in our bodies, in our sweetness and our adversity, in our joys and our sorrow, in our darkness and our light, in the state of the world as it is and in the state of the world as we wish it would be. Everything is held in this divine embrace of perfection, perfection that includes everything. And we allow that consciousness to inform us as we go about our day-to-day existence. Today I call forth the awareness, and I'll use the word I am, but I'm using the sacred I am that applies to all of us. I am a beacon of love. I am a place of hope. I am an instrument of kindness. I am a place of peace. I spread joy wherever I go. When I walk into a room, people are hopeful, joyful, peaceful, graceful. I am gratitude itself. I am giving and I am receiving, for all are one. I am generosity. I am abundance. I am prosperity. I am all of these things and so much more, because God is all of these things. And so I just rest in that knowing that there is nothing for the small self to do other than to get out of the way and allow the power and the presence and the light and the life of God to pour through us in everything. And we see it and we believe it. We see the evidence of God's presence spread upon the earth. And we love it. And we allow it to love us. For we are part of the perfection of the universe. How beautiful it is to know this. How beautiful it is to allow this message to change our lives for good. I give deep thanks for everything that has been shared here in this service, for the words, for the reading, for the music, for everybody who works behind the scenes, for most of all, the community of hearts that come together to circulate this love and to share this love and to bring it out into our daily lives so that we may be beacons of hope and goodness in the world. I'm so grateful. So grateful for this teaching, so grateful for the transformative power that it has, so grateful for all teachings everywhere. I bless this spiritual center and its teaching as I bless all paths to God. Churches, synagogues, temples, mosques, ashrams, fundamentalists, atheists, agnostics, anyone I haven't mentioned. I bless all of them, for all are a blessing. And with a heart that is so filled with deep gratitude, with blessedness, I say thank you, Spirit, thank you, love. And I release these words into the divine mystery. And together we say, and so it is.
As I walk through this troubled world, searching for light in the darkness of insanity, I ask myself, is our hope lost? Is there only pain and hatred and misery? Each time I feel like this inside, one thing I want to know, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Whoa, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? As I walk on through troubled times, I feel so downhearted sometimes. Where are the strong? And who are the trusted? And where is that harmony? Sweet harmony. Each time I feel it slipping away, just makes me wanna cry. What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Whoa, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Trusted, and where is that harmony, sweet harmony? Each time I feel it slipping away, just makes me wanna cry. What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Whoa, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? Whoa, what's so funny about peace, love, and understanding?
Is that okay? Okay. All right. Anybody else? No, I'm kidding. Okay. All right. So let's pray. All right. We turn within and just trust to know that this has been a good time this morning. This has been a beautiful Sunday, filled with light and love, and filled with Just an awareness, a beautiful awareness that no matter what we're experiencing, no matter what is going on for us, we are experiencing the blessings of God and cultivating the eyes to see them. And so I'm so grateful for this time together, so grateful for our spiritual community, for all of the people that are here and all of the people that are online and all of the people who don't know yet that they're coming here someday. I'm grateful for everyone, for our world, for our animal kingdom, for all that is. And so I just give thanks. I give thanks for this time together. I give thanks for the transformation that happens when we join together in spiritual community, lifting each other up. And with hearts so filled with love and gratitude, I say, thank you, Spirit, thank you, love, and I release these words into the divine mystery that always says yes. And together we say, and so it is.